You are with me, Raju, editor-in-chief at transformationchampions.com. And I am doing series of interviews with corporate and wellness leaders to understand the efforts they put in to engage with their customers and workforce in ways that keep them motivated, enthusiastic, and forever willing to pursue a healthy lifestyle. Today, I am with Rajesh Kumar. He is an engineer turned psychologist and he is a psychotherapist and psychological counselor. He is here with us to share his thoughts on how food impacts mental health. Welcome, Mr. Rajesh. Good morning. Good to have you with us today. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Raju, and good morning to you. Have a good day, and it's always a pleasure to be on your channel. Glad to have me back.
So, also a pleasure from our side as well, Rajesh. So, let us get into the conversation, right? In the last conversation, you highlighted the importance of mental health and also the mind-body connection, especially with respect to stress, right? And also various type of mental health professionals available. Since we spoke about how the mind and body are closely interrelated, I'm wondering if food is in any way connected to mental health, Rajesh.
Oh, absolutely, Raju. In fact, see, we all know that food is very important for physical health, right? But recent research has found that food, in fact, in a very amazing way, impacts our mental health also. In fact, the connection between food and mental health is so deep that, in fact, even I myself was amazed to discover there is a new field of study which is coming up. This is called nutritional psychiatry. Have you heard about it?
No, Rajesh. It's a new terminology for me. And nutritional psychiatry is totally new to me and I never heard about that. And so it'll be good if you can tell us more about that, Rajesh.
Yeah, see, nutrition psychiatry itself is a very, very new field which is coming up. And I have only a basic understanding of it because I just discovered this whole thing just a few days back. So what I understand is this is a fantastic field which is bringing two very, very important fields of science together. On one hand, you have psychiatry and psychology, where we try to understand, uncover, discover, understand how the human mind works, how the human brain works, why we do certain things, how we behave, all this. On the other hand, food and nutrition and dietetics. This is a very, very important field now, which is very crucial to maintain our physical health. So nutritional psychiatry is a field which brings these two fantastic fields of science together. And I think what they're attempting to do here is to kind of make the psychiatrists and psychologists aware of how much impact food has on our mental health. And on the other side, they're trying to kind of create that kind of awareness with the nutritionists and dietitians that food impacts a lot our mental health also. So far, if you see, if you go for a psychiatric treatment or a psychological therapy or something, people just focus on behavior, the way we think, all these kind of things. On the other hand, when you go to a nutritionist or a dietitian, they typically focus on what is good for our body. But this is a new kind of a connection that's coming up these days, that the food we eat impacts our mind and our brain.
Very good, interesting, Rajesh, and I am very passionate about nutrition. And let us talk about children, Rajesh. We all know that our food and nutrition is very essential to healthy growth of children, right?
Yes.
What specific ways does nutrition affect the mental health of children, Rajesh?
Oh, that's a fantastic question, Raju. See, we all know how food is very important for children. In fact, much more than adults. For children, food is very, very essential because they are in the developing state. More than physical health, in fact, for good brain development of the child, nutrition is very, very important. That's why we say in the first 4 or 5 years of the child's life, we have to ensure that the best possible nutrition is given for the proper development of the child's brain, because that lays the foundation for the rest of the life of the child. Now, one interesting thing is when we talk about children's health, why do we talk about children after they are born? Let's go a little, before that, and let's look at a child when it is still in the womb of its mother. In fact, nutrition starts there. In fact, that really lays the foundation of our entire life. So what research has found, of course, this is sort of a common knowledge, that a pregnant woman should not consume alcohol. Even in countries where they normally consume alcohol on a daily basis, it's been found that a pregnant woman, if she consumes alcohol on a regular basis, it definitely directly impacts the child's mental health. And that is something we are going to diagnose and discover much, much later after the child is born. Now, the connection between alcohol and mental health for the children is specifically in terms of ADHD, that is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, various mood disorders. Many children today are born with learning disabilities, like dyslexia. So researchers found that these sort of conditions may develop in the child later on if the mother consumes alcohol when she's pregnant. So that is the importance of food for the mental health of the child. Now, another important thing is we will be able to diagnose a child whether it has ADHD or dyslexia or any other mental health disorder like that, or a brain disorder, not immediately after it's born. Probably it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years of age for parents to even start noticing some problems. And only then they can approach a doctor or a therapist and start the treatment. And even if they start the treatment, it takes a long, long time. And sometimes the sad thing is there is no cure, but the child may need a very long-term treatment till it becomes an adult. So this is the serious impact that alcohol consumption can have on the future mental health of the child. So now we have seen alcohol as one food item. Of course, there is a remedy to it. Okay. The remedy is in a key nutrient called choline. Okay. It's spelled as CHOLINE, choline. So this is a micronutrient, a very, very essential nutrient. And what they have found is if you supplement the child with choline, then the symptoms of ADHD, the various mood disorders, dyslexia, greatly reduces. So that is a proper remedy that has come up now based on research. Now there's a second issue when it comes to children. Now we all know there is something called omega-3 fatty acids, right? So as adults, many of us who are conscious of health regularly consume omega-3 either in a natural form or as a supplement. Now the interesting thing is, even for children, omega-3 is supposed to have a lot of benefits, especially in terms of mental health. The same conditions that I mentioned before, like ADHD, hyperactivity disorder, attention deficit disorder, mood disorders, various conditions like this are possibly caused, or if not caused, they are at least aggravated because of low omega-3 levels in the children. So what is the remedy? It's simple, just supplement them with omega-3, either in the natural form in terms of various foods that have omega-3 like meat or eggs or milk and milk products, or via some supplements. Okay. So this way they have seen that once the children get sufficient dosage of omega-3 in their diet, the symptoms of all these conditions greatly reduce. So that's a very, very encouraging research that's come up. Now there is a third issue when we specifically talk of children, That is in terms of various food allergies. So probably we'll come to that later on. Now, going back to the pregnancy stage of the mother, this is a very important issue I wanted to highlight through your channel. Researchers again found that during pregnancy, if a mother gets some viral infection, any kind of viral infection, there is a possibility, it's not 100% guaranteed that this is going to happen, but there is a possibility that in future, the child may develop schizophrenia. And schizophrenia, as you know, is a very, very serious mental disorder. It's a psychotic disorder, which will need more or less lifelong medical support, therapy, and various other interventions that way. So another thing you must also know, schizophrenia develops not immediately after birth or in childhood. It develops after the age of 20. So you can imagine the kind of impact a viral infection during pregnancy will have on the child 20 years or 25 years after it's born. So that is why we say when a lady is pregnant, she has to take care of her health in a very, very careful way. And a person becomes susceptible to infection because of low immunity levels, right? So the pregnant women should take care to boost their immunity level by consuming adequate quantities of vitamin C, vitamin D, enough proteins, choline, which we talked about earlier, and they should consume a lot of fresh fruits, green leafy vegetables, and all these kind of very nutritious food, so that there is no lack of nutrition for the child after it's born. So these are the three ways that food can directly impact a child's mental health, not just after it's born, but even as late as 20 years later.
A lot of useful information, Rajesh, and particularly looks like how important is nutrition knowledge to parents, right? Definitely looks like very, even before the kid is born and after the kid is born. It's both. On one hand, it is very scary that mothers not paying attention to their nutrition while pregnant can lead to a lot of problems with their children future, right?
Yes.
That will in turn definitely will in turn the emotional and financial strain on the entire family as well.
Very much. Yes.
On the other hand, scientific research gives us a lot of hope that ADHD, dyslexia, and other such conditions can be prevented or mitigated by supplementation with proper.
Absolutely.
Right? So, while talking about nutrients, we emphasized on choline, right? A few times. Tell us more about that.
See, choline is basically, it's neither a vitamin, it's neither a mineral. It is called an essential nutrient. That's it. But it seems to play a really, really important role in the mental health of the child. And it also helps a lot for the mother to maintain her health. Now, choline works in our bodies in two different ways. Okay? One is, in fact, as adults, this is very important. Choline helps to reduce the fat in our system. Like many of us these days have fatty liver problem, right? So it's been found that choline actually reduces fat in the liver and in the system as a whole. But now, since we are talking more on mental health, we'll shift to that. Now, choline, when it's, in fact, the body actually naturally produces some bit of choline, but normally it may not be sufficient. So we might have to supplement either with supplements or with nutritious food which contain choline. Now, what happens is this choline actually becomes a neurotransmitter. It's a very important brain chemical that is called acetylcholine. So choline becomes acetylcholine, which is actually a very, very important neurotransmitter and a neuromodulator. Now, why it is so important is, especially for children, definitely for adults also, but very important for children, is acetylcholine actually directly plays a major role in the child's attention, the child's memory, in the child's learning, and in the overall motivation of the child. So when we see people, let's say children with various learning disabilities like dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, and other conditions, or with attention deficit disorders called ADD or hyperactivity disorders, or ADHD, which is combination of both attention deficit and hyperactivity. All these conditions could possibly be caused because of low levels of acetylcholine, and which is in turn because of low levels of choline in our system. See, the logic is like this. If the child is not able to pay attention,
Right.
let's say it goes to a school and the teacher is teaching, but it's just not able to pay attention. So if you don't pay attention, you will not be able to remember it because nothing goes inside. And if you don't remember anything, you can't learn, right? The child may not even remember what is being taught in the class, so there's no way it can come back home and do some homework and learn things. So all these things are connected to each other. So acetylcholine is very important chemical in the nervous system, which impacts such very, very crucial things in the child's mental health. And as children, if they start having these problems, very quickly they become demotivated. Because children are very young, they don't know what's wrong with them, but they know there is some issue. And they see other children around them remembering things better. They see other children learning things better, and they are not able to learn. So this naturally affects their motivation levels, and psychologically also they get affected. So once they get demotivated, it's a vicious circle. So if a child is demotivated, he or she is not going to listen in the classroom. He or she is not going to pay attention. Then further, you understand how the cycle works. Like, so there is demotivation, there is less attention, less memory, less learning. Further demotivation. So this is a vicious circle. So that is why we should really pay a lot of importance to nutrition, especially this particular nutrient called choline, when we talk about children's development.
Interesting, very useful info, Rajesh. And yeah, we got to know more about the choline now. And what about food allergies, Rajesh? Do they affect the mental health?
Oh, yes, definitely. In fact, that's a very, very good question. And in fact, food allergies impact our physical health as well as our mental health quite a lot. In fact, how much they affect the mental health is again, a lot of research is being done and a lot of new discoveries are being made. So what they've actually found is, see, food allergy, when we say there are few things. One is dairy allergy to milk and milk products. So this is a very, very common allergy we find, especially in children. They have lactose intolerance and various allergies they develop through dairy products. The other food allergy is possibly food additives, like food colors, various flavors we add to the food and all. And apart from these things, various other things like gluten. Like today, everybody seems to be aware of gluten allergies. Although gluten is naturally present in wheat, we seem to be allergic to it. At least many of us seem to be allergic to it. So dairy allergy or milk, lactose intolerance, gluten allergy, and allergy to various food chemicals, like all the various flavors they put in various processed food. All these things actually directly impact the child's mental health in terms of increasing their irritability. So children get more and more irritable when they eat these foods. Apart from irritability, all the other conditions we talked about earlier, ADHD, hyperactivity, attention deficit, various mood disorders. In fact, we find a lot of children getting more and more anxious. So there is anxiety disorder in the children. There are a lot of children these days who get depressed very quickly. So depression also is a serious mental disorder in children these days. So parents should realize the fact that the kind of food they give the children is very, very important, not just for the body, but also for their mental health. And today, very, very few parents are even aware of the fact that when they give processed food to children, you know, we just have no control over what goes into the making of the food. And of course, food and processed food, the flavors and the colors they add is very minute quantity. But even that is enough to affect the child's mental health, because children don't just stop eat with just one piece of chocolate or one piece of barfi or one ice cream or something. They are going to keep asking for it. So we see a lot of parents succumbing to the pressure of children and getting them ice creams or chocolates or pastries or any other processed food like chips and other things every day. But we don't realize what kind of harm we are doing to the children.
Right.
Yeah. So we have to, before we buy anything which is processed, we have to take care to read the label. At least to some extent these days, because of a change in our law, manufacturers are compelled to declare the contents, the ingredients. So at least to some extent, we should become aware of what goes into that. And if there are some harmful additives and chemicals, we should completely avoid it. So the best thing personally I would recommend, and which I and my family follow for the last 10 or 15 years, is as much as possible, we have started consuming organic food.
Okay.
Because the moment you say organic, you are completely free from all these harmful chemicals. And the food is not processed as much as the other type of food. And we generally tend to be much more healthier. So this is the importance of food allergy to mental health of children. And there's just one point I missed out earlier when we talked of choline and saw how important it is. We should also probably tell the viewers what are the sources of choline, from what kind of foods they can have choline. Okay. I find eggs and meat, fish, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and broccoli, chickpeas, or what we call as kabuli chana, brown chana, and these kind of chanas. All these things are good sources of choline. So I would definitely urge the viewers of your channel to consciously, consume these foods for themselves and also give it to the children.
Very good information, Rajesh. I'm very curious now how nutrition affects adults.
Okay. Yeah. See, when we talk of adults like us, it's not as complicated as children, okay? Because our body has already developed in all possible ways. So for us, the major issue is about stress. Okay, all of us are working, or we are in our own business, or whatever field of activity we do, there's a lot of stress to it. I mean, that's an integral part of life. We cannot, wish it away. So the logical thing to do will be to increase our coping levels. So our ability to handle that stress. Okay. So when we talk of stress, we kind of loosely use words like stress, anxiety, depression, worry, tension. We in our daily conversation, we use all these words. But in psychology and psychiatry, actually, every word like this has its own clear definition. And what probably, I don't want to get into the technical details, but people should understand that the word stress is the big umbrella term. Everything else comes into that. Like if you say anxiety, that's also part of stress. If you say depression, that's part of stress. People have eating disorders. Like either they eat a lot, that is called binge eating, or they don't eat at all and starve. and become anorexic. So it could be any of these conditions. In fact, under stress, there are about probably 30 or 40 different conditions. But one thing we should also realize is the moment I say I have anxiety doesn't mean it's a mental health problem. It is not a disorder. Moment I say I'm feeling a bit low, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling depressed, it doesn't make it a disorder. Okay. So if I say I'm stressed out, doesn't mean that I have a mental disorder. So people should realize that all of us are human beings. It's natural to feel stress. It's natural to feel anxiety. All this is part of our life. When it becomes a disorder is only when it crosses a particular limit. So if I'm feeling low today, it's fine. But if I'm going to be feeling low continuously for more than 2 weeks, and I'm getting more and more, feeling of hopelessness, worthlessness, helplessness, then it is diagnosed as depression. So there are clear-cut, criteria for diagnosing mental health disorders. So every word like stress or anxiety does not mean it's a disorder. So people should not feel any kind of stigma in saying they have anxiety or they are feeling depressed. This is all human emotions. All of us naturally feel off. Anyway, now coming back to the core issue of how food affects all this, right? So just like in children, for adults also food and nutrition plays a vital role, but not so much in terms of our development because that is already done and over. Where it really affects us is in terms of giving us capability to handle stress. Okay. So we'll look at 2 or 3 categories of foods to understand this. Specifically, when you talk of depression, researchers found that 2 important vitamins, vitamin D, which we get from the sun, vitamin B12, these are 2 vitamins which have a direct impact on our happiness levels and the depression that people suffer from. So the correlation is like this. People who have been diagnosed with depression seem to have low levels of vitamin D and vitamin B12. Of course, today, if you go and test anybody at random, all of us don't have enough sun exposure. So all of us are bound to have low vitamin D levels. Across the world, vitamin D deficiency is a huge problem, but we don't realize its effects. But simultaneously, you can see across the world, suicides are increasing, depression levels are increasing. Everybody today, even people who have achieved a lot, who have earned a lot of name and fame and wealth, even they suffer from depression. And many of those people are also driven to suicide. So it's not that there is a major issue in terms of, we don't know what to do about it, but researchers come to help us now, saying at least test these people for vitamin D and vitamin B12, give them sufficient supplements of these 2 vitamins in their food. And over a period of time, it's been noticed that their happiness levels also improve, or they're able to come out of depression much better than before. So this is how important vitamin D and vitamin B12 are for our mental health. Of course, vitamin D is called the sunshine vitamin, so you can just go expose your skin to the sun. They say about 30 minutes every day is what is recommended. But if you're not able to do it, there are lots of supplements available in capsule form. All of us must consume vitamin D either through sunshine or as a tablet, not just for the physical health. Of course, we know it is good for bones, it is good for various other functions of the body, but especially for our mental health. Similarly, vitamin B12, for vegetarians, the source is very limited. It is just available in milk and milk products, maybe in a few mushrooms, but non-vegetarians, it's abundantly available in meat and eggs. Especially for vegans, it is an issue. At least to my limited knowledge, I don't know if there are proper vegan sources of vitamin B12. But I'm not an expert in nutrition, but I just share what I know. So probably vegans will have to supplement themselves with vitamin B12, maybe as capsules or something. So this is the importance of vitamins on our mental health. The second category of nutrition is called antioxidants. I mean, many of us consume green tea, right? So a lot of us who want to reduce weight, many of us have now shifted from regular tea and coffee to green tea. We have also started consuming herbal teas with tulsi and turmeric and ginger, various things like that. So what this is, all these things have what is called as antioxidants. So these are chemicals which kind of flush away all the free radicals in our blood. So when we are in a lot of stress, the body produces what is called free radicals. And these free radicals, if we don't flush them out, they're pretty harmful for our health. So antioxidants actually help in flushing out all these harmful free radicals. And the main antioxidant is a particular antioxidant called glutathione. And glutathione is actually found to be very, very good for stress relief. So there are many, many antioxidants, but this particular antioxidant is very good for stress relief. And they've also done a research on this and found people who are taking psychotic drugs, medicines given by psychiatrists for various conditions like depression or bipolar disorder or any such condition, they respond better to treatment if they consume sufficient levels of glutathione. So that is the importance of this particular antioxidant on our mental health. In natural form, we can get glutathione and probably many other antioxidants from spinach, like green leafy vegetables, lady's finger, avocados. So many of these foods have glutathione. And as far as other antioxidants are concerned, as we see, green tea is a very good source. Tulsi, herbal tea, is a very good source for these kind of antioxidants, which help us cope with stress. So we have seen vitamins, we have seen antioxidants. The third category, which is linked to antioxidants, is a group of foods called adaptogens. So adaptogens are a category of food. It's not a nutrient or something, but it's a category of food, typically herbs, which directly help us in stress relief. Now, this is found all over the world in alternative forms of medicine. Like in India, if you say Ayurveda or Siddha treatment, if you go for stress relief, typically the doctors will recommend various herbs like ashwagandha. Ashwagandha is also called amukkara in Tamil. They will recommend tulsi, turmeric. There is a herb called giloy in Hindi. Tamil it's called seendal. And you have very famous licorice. Licorice roots are world famous actually. In Hindi it's called muleti, and Tamil we call it as adimaduram. So this is licorice is actually a root. So they remove the root, wash it, dry it, and make it into powder. And you can have a decoction with that. Or you can just eat it with a bit of honey or milk or something. So all these herbs actually help us relieve our stress a lot. And especially some of these herbs, if you have it before you go to sleep, they find that your sleep quality also improves a lot. So people having insomnia, see, typically insomnia or sleep problems are possibly caused because of stress. There could be other causes, but an important cause is stress. So any herb which helps you reduce stress, obviously is going to make you sleep better. So that is why if you see most of these Siddha doctors or Ayurvedic physicians, they will recommend one or more of these adaptogens. So this is so nice to see because we are able to see a strong connection between body and mind, right? So when we consume these foods, it's basically getting into our stomach, into our intestine, getting into the bloodstream, but it magically seems to affect our mind. So that is the the importance of it. Apart from these two or three categories, you have other things like zinc. Zinc and magnesium are also very, very important for stress relief. So you can consume zinc through nuts, and seeds. In fact, seeds are very good sources of zinc. In fact, right now we are still in summer. We still get watermelon all over the country. Normally, what we do is we spit out the seeds, right? So from childhood, at least only till recently, I used to just spit it out. But of late, I discovered that the seeds of watermelons and seeds of pumpkins and various other seeds have fantastic benefits, especially they're very good source of zinc. And zinc actually is good for building our immunity against diseases that a lot of people know. But it so happens that zinc is very good for stress relief also. So similarly, magnesium. So we should definitely supplement ourselves with adequate levels of magnesium to keep us from getting affected by stress. So this is one thing. And of course, you are a millet champion, Raju. So how can we not talk of millets on your channel? So it's fantastic to see that India is naturally blessed with fantastic grains. So most of the millets are very good for mental health also. These days, many people are getting more aware of millets for physical health because it has got a lot of calcium, protein, fiber, all these things. But I would like your viewers to realize that consuming millets is very good for stress relief. In fact, bajra, ragi, sorghum, foxtail millet or thinai in Tamil, and proso millet or panivar in Tamil. So all these are very, very good for stress relief because they seem to be having a lot of proteins, and one specific protein called tryptophan seems to be very good for stress relief. And millets already naturally have all these proteins. So apart from giving us fantastic physical health benefits, millets are actually a blessing for our mental health also.
Very good. Lot of information, Rajesh. And particularly, a few takeaways for me as well, right? So you mentioned that stress is natural and normal, right? The only thing is we have to
Absolutely.
know how to handle stress and it doesn't lead to depression, right? And you also
That's
spoke about vitamin D, vitamin B12. You spoke about the zinc, magnesium, and lastly, we were covering millets as well, how it can comprehensively help support mental health. Right? A lot of information, useful information, Rajesh. Now let us go to old elderly people, right? So how nutrition food can affect mental health of old people?
Yeah. See, this is again a very, very important thing that all of us should pay attention to. Just like working adults, when we also get old, we face a lot of stress. The only difference is while we are working, the stress is because of work and various other issues. But when we grow old and many of us retire from service, people in business continue for much longer time. But whatever be the thing, old age brings its own stress. Like because generally, as we grow old, the physical strength comes down, immunity levels naturally go down. And apart from that, old age people have their own mental health issues. Like for example, typically, sometimes families, the children stay far away from parents. The parents are not able to see their children very often. Okay. So that creates issues. And as we grow older, all of us have to, this is a necessary fact of life, loss of loved ones. This is inevitable. Every single human being faces this issue some time or other in their life. So this creates a lot of stress for old age people. Apart from that, they have financial problems. So as long as they were working, earnings were there, but after retirement, earnings drastically come down. And if people don't have pension support, it adds that much more to their financial stress. So for various reasons like this, old people face a lot of stress. So it's very important for them to pay attention to their nutrition, or it's very important for their caretakers to pay attention to their nutrition. Now, whatever we talked about for adults holds good for old people as well, in terms of what kind of foods. Like we talked about antioxidants, we talked about vitamin D, vitamin B12, we talked about adaptogens, various herbs like tulsi, ginger, ashwagandha, licorice and stuff like that. All these things are, if not equally important, they are much more important for elderly people. So either they themselves can make these things and consume, or their caretakers should ensure that these kind of nutrients are given to them adequately on a daily basis. So it's very important for elderly people to expose their skin to the sun. Like they should take a walk every day, at least for half an hour, in such a way that there is direct sunlight on them. And at least the hands and legs, as much as possible, if they are exposed to sunlight, then it helps them absorb sunlight and make vitamin D in their bodies naturally. And vitamin D is called sunshine vitamin for a specific reason, because it kind of boosts our mood. So just walking out, getting fresh air and sunshine is fantastic. If they're not able to do it, they should definitely have supplements of vitamin D. Similarly, vitamin B12 has a direct bearing on depression, as we saw before, and elderly people are more susceptible to get depressed, because additionally the health is also failing. That's very crucial for them to have these vitamins. Now, apart from all these things, there is a class of nutrients called flavonoids. Flavonoids are basically those, it's called a plant chemical, it's a phytonutrient. So these phytonutrients are the ones which give color to the food. Like you see all colorful vegetables and fruits. So anything which is very colorful has a lot of flavonoids, which means basically it's very good for us. So that is nature's very simple way of telling you, hey, look at me, I'm so attractive. So I'm very good for you. So unlike in humans, here, if something is attractive, it is also very good for us. Especially when we talk about food and vegetables. I mean, fruits and vegetables. So, so this is very, very important. So elderly people should have adequate consumption of fresh, colorful fruits and vegetables. And of course, millets is a all-weather remedy for a lot of things. So elderly people should ensure that they consume a lot of millets in their diet. And if they are non-vegetarians, of course, to whatever extent their system can accept, they can continue to consume fish or meat or eggs, because they are loaded with good proteins, and they also have a lot of other essential nutrients like minerals and vitamins. This is as far as how much ever they could digest based on their age and physical condition. So I would definitely recommend elderly people to approach a proper nutritionist or a dietitian and get sufficient advice for their daily nutrition. Now, another very, very important problem that elderly people face is Alzheimer's or dementia. So this is a problem where there is a significant decline in their brain capacity. So the way the brain functions gradually reduces, and then it's kind of a point of no return. Right? So of course, once it happens, then it's very difficult for caretakers to manage. But we can do our best to at least kind of either postpone such a thing from happening, or if possible, even prevent that from happening. And the way to do it through nutrition is to have excellent nutrition, all the various vitamins that we discussed, millets, flavonoids, adaptogens, antioxidants. So if they consume all these things regularly, at least there is a very good chance that they will kind of prevent such things from happening. And even if they're diagnosed with it, probably these things might help them kind of, at least slow down the deterioration. So we see food is very, very important for mental health of old people also.
A lot of information, Rajesh, and very useful, informative, and particularly you gave a lot of tips, and you covered all the group of ages, starting from babies, children, adults to old people. And the new term we learned today is nutritional therapy. Right? That's a good part. And that sums up the importance of food for our mental health. Now it gives a lot of hope by paying attention to our nutrition. We can prevent such mental disorder. And thank you very much, Rajesh, for being here and providing a lot of useful information. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Yeah, my pleasure, Raju. And let's all stay healthy and pay that much more focus on mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajesh.